What do you think killed a queen? Rebellion? Palace intrigue? An ancient curse? Wrong. What took the life of Queen Elizabeth I, the most powerful woman in England's golden age, didn't come from swords or treason, but from a mirror and what she put on to face it, to preserve the image of an immortal icon. Elizabeth coated her face daily with white lead and mercury, turning her skin into porcelain marred, her lips into blood red, and her body into a living vault of poison. When she died, it was rumored that her corpse exploded inside the coffin, the result of toxic gases trapped within. This isn't legend. This is history, and in today's video, you'll uncover the brutal truth behind the legendary beauty, a truth they never taught in school.
I've seen you. You are the one who comes to all the plays at Whitehall, at Richmond.
Your Majesty.
Snow White's skin was not merely a beauty ideal in the Elizabethan era. It was a silent declaration of power, class, and purity for a queen who never married, had no heir, and was never allowed to falter. Perfection wasn't a choice. It was a political obligation. To create her ghostly porcelain complexion, Elizabeth I used Venetian ceruse, a cosmetic blend widely favoured among the aristocracy of her time. Its primary ingredients were white lead and vinegar. When applied to the skin, ceruse created a smooth, luminous surface that concealed every trace of time, illness, or emotion.
At the turn of the 16th century, portraiture in England was still very much in its infancy. In fact, in terms of the European perspective, it was way behind.
But the price of that perfection was invisible and deadly. Today, scientists confirm what Elizabeth never could have fully understood. Lead is a cumulative neurotoxin, capable of penetrating the skin, infiltrating the central nervous system and vital organs. Daily application of lead doesn't just lead to hair loss and skin deterioration, it causes severe neurological symptoms, including memory loss, depression, psychosis, and, ultimately, death by lead poisoning. According to Dr. Caroline Cartwright, a materials scientist at the British Museum, we've found extremely high levels of lead in the hair and bones of 16th century noblewomen. There's strong evidence to suggest that cosmetics played a significant role in their slow decline and death. In Elizabeth's case, the effects were not immediate, but each day, another layer of ceruse was applied, and with it, another layer of poison absorbed. As age and smallpox began to leave visible scars, there was no turning back. The only solution was more coverage.
Henry certainly was expecting a son. We know that, in fact, because he prepares the birth announcements for the birth of a prince. Unfortunately for her parents, of course, she is a girl, and the birth announcements are amended to add an S to say princess.
According to accounts from her final years, her makeup reached nearly an inch thick, roughly 5 centimeters, forming a mask of cold, white silence, beneath which her real skin had all but vanished. But perhaps the most terrifying part of the story is this: no one dared to speak. Not a single maid, not a single artist, not a single nobleman was allowed to admit that beneath the porcelain face, the Queen's body was slowly corroding, cell by cell. The silence within the palace didn't just preserve her image, it became complicit in a slow, daily destruction, quiet, invisible, and irreversible. Elizabeth could not step back. She was no longer just a monarch. She was a symbol, and symbols are never allowed to crack. If porcelain white skin was a declaration of nobility, then blood-red lips were the emblem of power, femininity, and ritual allure in every surviving portrait of Elizabeth I. That crimson mark is never absent, a vivid slash of red set against a pallid face, like an indelible seal of sovereignty.
Thomas Wyatt rebels in favour of Princess Elizabeth ascending to the throne.
To achieve that signature hue, Elizabeth used lipstick made from cinnabar, a mineral whose primary component is mercury sulfide. When ground into a fine powder and mixed with oil or wax, it became a deep red pigment, applied to the lips as cosmetic. At the time, cinnabar was considered rare, luxurious, and almost mystical. Alchemists referred to it as the blood of the earth. But like lead, mercury is a potent neurotoxin. It attacks the central nervous system, destroys brain cells, and leads to behavioral disturbances, hallucinations, depression, and memory loss. According to court records from Elizabeth's final years, these symptoms became increasingly evident.
He saw him as a huge threat, both to national prosperity, if he married the Queen, and also to his own position at court. I think he was the one man that really he was fussed about.
As medical historian Dr. Lindsay Fitzharris explains, it doesn't take a high dose of mercury to do damage. Just a small amount, absorbed daily through the skin, the lips, or the breath, is enough to destroy a person quietly, over time.
Now, I reckon that's pretty straight talking. It was a very small part of the sermon, but this, if you like, was almost before a state opening of Parliament.
And that, it seems, is exactly what happened. Elizabeth wasn't just painting her lips. She may have licked them, inhaled the cinnabar dust during application, or ingested trace amounts through her mouth. As each layer faded, it was replaced by another, and that ritual repeated itself for decades. Her body gradually became a vessel of poison from the inside out, and when it came time to remove the lipstick, the solution of the day was a corrosive blend, crushed eggshells. And once again, mercury, this time in a compound, meant to cleanse, but which literally stripped away the soft tissue, layer by layer. Each morning, as that red pigment touched her lips, as the white lead was patted onto her skin, Elizabeth unknowingly inscribed the final chapters of a royal tragedy, a tragedy not written in blood, but in cosmetics. The ring Elizabeth had worn since her coronation in 1559 was not merely a piece of jewellery. It was a tangible vow, a physical oath that she would never belong to anyone but the throne of England. Yet by the end of her life, that very symbol had become a grim testament to her decline. Yet by the end of her life, that very symbol had become a grim testament to her decline. Accounts from her attendants reveal that the ring had begun to embed itself into the skin. Already weakened and inflamed by years of lead and mercury exposure, her hand became swollen and discoloured. When royal physicians advised that the ring be surgically removed to prevent spreading infection, Elizabeth refused. She would not undo her vow, not even in her final moments. According to a report by her lady-in-waiting, Elizabeth Southwell, the Queen entered a state of emotional and physical exhaustion in her last days. She refused to lie down, refused to rest, and remained standing for up to 15 hours at a time. as if using the last of her strength to resist the one thing she could no longer command, the end. Elizabeth died on the 24th of March, 1603, at Richmond Palace. The recorded causes of death were pneumonia or cancer, but under modern scrutiny, many historians now speculate that the true cause may have been chronic lead and mercury poisoning, a slow, cumulative death brought on by the very cosmetics she had worn faithfully for over 40 years. Just 1 week after her doctors recommended removing the ring, Elizabeth passed away, and according to Southwell's account, her body exploded inside the coffin, the result of toxic gases trapped within. While some have dismissed the story as Catholic propaganda, modern forensic science does not entirely rule it out.
We also see at Henry VIII's court that miniatures start to become more popular as well because they are portable, so they're more personal. They can be used and incorporated into jewels, for example. So we know that Henry VIII's sixth wife, Catherine Parr, was very fond of miniatures.
The phenomenon is now known as exploding casket syndrome, a rare but real occurrence in which a sealed coffin builds internal pressure from decomposition gases until it bursts from within. Elizabeth lived and died in silence. No one dared speak the truth while she was alive. And when she died, her body, saturated with poison, spoke for her. The death of Elizabeth I did not come by sword, nor by rebellion, nor by any political conspiracy. It came slowly, quietly, and insidiously seeping in day by day through the porcelain powder she pressed onto her face, through the blood-red pigment she painted onto her lips, and through a culture in which beauty was defined by the fear of being seen as one truly is. She defeated every man who sought to control her destiny. But she could not defeat something far more elusive: the invisible power of feminine ideals constructed by society itself. Elizabeth became the archetype of a dynasty, and, ultimately, the victim of the image that dynasty required her to uphold.
And on Mary's death, the coronation robe was hastily refurbished but then worn again by Elizabeth. And I think that's a timely and instructive reminder, really, that actually Elizabeth did follow her sister Mary, who did wear the crown for the first time. And in many ways, Elizabeth was able to learn from her sister's mistakes, but also kind of benefit.
Those who served her remained silent. The painters who portrayed her dared not show wrinkles or scars. The doctors, in the end, I could only whisper that the ring should come off. Throughout her reign, Elizabeth ruled an empire, but in the end, she was ruled by the image she herself had created. And perhaps that is why her story still echoes today. We are still living in an age where appearances wield too much power. We still trade truth for perfection, sometimes with money, sometimes with health, and sometimes with life itself. Elizabeth I did not only leave behind a golden age in English history, she left behind a question that has never been easy to answer. How far will we go to preserve an image even when we know it's killing us? Day by day? If you believe this story deserves to be heard, don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Because history is not just something we remember, it's something that helps us understand who we are right now.